Excellencies, everyone, a very warm welcome to this webinar in celebration of International Day of the Girl, which is forthcoming on 11 October. One of the areas of focus for this day, the day this year, is learn new skills towards the futures they choose. Today, we're bringing to you multi-stakeholder perspectives on what is needed to close gender equality gaps in science, technology, and innovation during COVID-19 and beyond. It's a great pleasure for ITU to be co-hosting this session with the Permanent Mission of Bulgaria to the United Nations and sister agencies UNESCO and WIPO. My name is Ursula Weinhoven. I'm the ITU representative to the United Nations in New York, and I'm honored to be your moderator for this session today. The ITU is the UN specialized agency for information and communication technologies, and we're very committed to today's theme, including because COVID has made clearer than ever before how critical it is to have universal, affordable, relevant access to ICTs that is safe, affordable, user empowering, and that leads to positive impact. ITU is a proud co-founder and secretariat for the Equals Global Partnership for Gender Equality in the Digital Age, and champion for initiatives such as International Girls in ICT Day, which is in April, and regional gender and tech initiatives such as African Girls Can Code. A couple of housekeeping matters for our webinar this morning. During this webinar, we invite you to post your questions and comments in the Q&A area, and you can do that throughout this session. Our dear colleague Alina, who is on the line, will be monitoring it and helping us. And we also invite our panelists to pay attention to the Q&A so they can respond throughout the webinar to those questions. We also will be strictly on time and wish to thank our colleague Sharon, who will give speakers a 1-minute warning when they have 1 minute remaining, and also alert them when their speaking time is concluded. And so thank you very much to Alina and Sharon for helping us with that today. The co-hosts have decided to begin and end the panel today with the voices of younger women so that they can have the first word and the last word at this event, celebrating Day of the Girl. We thank the Mission of Bulgaria for their support for this departure from usual protocol. So without further ado, let us then turn to our first speaker, Gladys Mosomtai, next Einstein Ambassador for Kenya in 2019 and 2018 UNESCO L'Oreal Award winner. Gladys, a question for you. As a champion for girls' empowerment, especially in the field of science, technology, and innovation, could you share with us your thoughts on some of the barriers girls and women face in fields such as science, technology, and innovation, and in the digital economy, and how they can be overcome, especially in Africa? Gladys, you have the floor.
All right. Thank you so much for the invitation. Good afternoon on my end. It's good evening, and from your end, I think it's good morning. My name is Gladys Mosomtai. I'm a PhD student at International Center of Insect Physiology and Ecology. It's a long name called ICIPE. I'm also registered at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, and my PhD works on remote sensing applications to understand landscape dynamics and how that affects coffee pest to be specifically, and how that we can help in understanding how we do our landscape and how we can help farmers, especially to manage their landscape such that they can able to manage coffee in this phase of climate change. You know, the journey of getting into STEM and even being a STEM champion really, I think, began way back. My passion for science from, growing up, I really wanted to be a doctor. And I guess it's because there was this book of, Think Big by, I remember his name, but we read that book, and as I think a lot of African kids got a chance to read that book, and everybody wanted to be a doctor and a neurosurgeon and all that. And so the journey starts there, having an idea, and having less very few people to look up to. I mean, we have very few women in STEM generally globally, but even so, more so in Africa. So the journey for me started then, and I have had the pleasure to have mentors. Most of them have been actually male. I have hardly had any female mentor. And there's kind of they were good and giving me that platform, but noticing the space in which I am right now as a PhD student, very few women in this space, my passion to just champion girls to be able to get into this space. And of course, we have the narrative that, sciences and engineering are not for girls, trying to break those barriers. And I try to live a life in such a way that I can, show to the younger generations that it is possible. You don't have to be an extraordinary girl or, to be able to pursue this path. But there's so many really barriers that, are along this journey. Of course, one of them being we have very few role models that we can identify with. And, the fact that you don't have anyone to look up to, and the society has this, being a teacher. I mean, I'm not saying that those courses are bad, but, it's like, that's where you're supposed to go. You're not supposed to cross over to this end. And so girls can easily identify with being a nurse, with being a teacher, and so forth. And, getting to realize that, let's try and steer the road, the path to this other end, and show girls that it is possible to do this. It is possible to pursue science. Once you're here, once you're at a PhD level, it's very difficult, again, because now even getting access to scholarships to begin with is very limited. You have to, compete for those scholarships. And once you get the scholarships, some of them, if you have to go abroad, you have to think. Many people at the PhD levels, they're beginning families and everything. So you're at that point where you're beginning to wonder, do I leave my young family to pursue a PhD abroad? Given the fact that most scholarships don't come with an accompaniment for women, do you factor in, do we would need care for babies and all that kind of thing? But you see, the scholarship comes equally the same as men. And we have the same time frame. I mean, you have a baby in between your PhD, and then those are 3 months that you have to go for maternity. That doesn't mean that the scholarship will extend for you beyond 3 years. So these are kind of the factors that is really challenging. Or even for myself now, I have to start to think, do I begin a family now because I'm in the middle of it? It doesn't have to be like this. It doesn't have to be like for a woman like me to have to bargain of whether should I start a family now or no, because I think women rights are human rights. I should be able to pursue my career and be able to raise my family equally. I want a world like that. This is the kind of world I'm trying to champion, that girls can have this opportunity to do equally whatever they want, have a voice, whatever they want to do, and still be able to be great mothers and, and wives and everything. And they don't have to feel like they're torn, you have to make sacrifices. I have seen friends really going through difficult times when their families are back home, they're here, there's all that guilt, and it just weighs them down, even on your progress on PhD. I mean, if you were there, but there's so many other factors beyond that is limiting you being being a potential. And now, even so, now with the COVID-19, that is what we are. It has thrust the world into this platform where everybody is moving to a digital space. We're having this meeting on Zoom in the first place because of these conditions. And on already the marginalized women in STEM, for people who are already ahead in STEM, those who had this opportunity are the ones who are able to grab this space. So women who are very illiterate, who are not connected to the internet, each time, for instance, even you, like for instance my mom, each time we have to, there's all these things going on, fraud happening and all that kind of thing. So I have to confirm with her, do not respond to these calls, don't give your details. That will tell you how much, vulnerable the women are in the space of digital space because of that, illiteracy. They are not aware of people who are conning them through internet, through, mobile phone platforms, and the information generally. I mean, even like how many policies that protects data in the space of digital space now, and especially women. We are the first people to be abused on, bullied on internet and everything. We need to have governments right now to start thinking about policies that will protect, policies that govern how the digital space is used. Because now, with everybody moving in there, and given the fact that most of them are illiterate, getting into this space, navigating through internet in itself is such a hassle. It's a hurdle. There's so many barriers that women have to, cross to get to the other end. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, and then now, because everybody is selling in the internet, because of these restrictions, people are no longer going out, and given in many African countries, for instance, the informal markets are really run by women, the ones who are selling vegetables. And for the ones, who are able to, for the lower part of the lower level of the society, would have access to so much.
Oh, Gladys, I'm so sorry to interrupt, my dear. That was fantastic. I think we have to move on to our next speaker, but thank you so much for so eloquently highlighting the different barriers and solutions, and also a vision for women and girls in science, technology, and innovation so effectively. Thank you so much, Gladys. So now we are going to turn to His Excellency, Mr. Georgi Velikov Panayotov, Permanent Representative of the Republic of Bulgaria to the United Nations. Thank you very much, Excellency, for co-hosting this session with UNESCO, WIPO, and ITU. In recent reports, Bulgaria has consistently scored high in representation of women in science, technology, and ICTs. Could you kindly share with us what is the secret to this success that has enabled these important achievements? And what do you see as the incentives and benefits of having so many more women actively engaged in driving forward the scientific and community?
Hi, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon to the people in the other parts of the world. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests. Before proceeding to the essence, allow me to kindly thank the co-organizers of this event, UNESCO, WIPO, and ITU. The Bulgarian mission, I can assure you, is deeply honored to be invited to join forces with representatives of the UN system, and specifically these important agencies, to advance this crucial topic. In a few days, as you know, on October the 11th, we'll celebrate the International Day of the Girl. While this year, we also commemorate the 25th year anniversary since the adoption of the Beijing Platform for Action and Gender Equality. Therefore, this event is more specifically meant to galvanize support for the empowerment of girls through enhanced access to STI, while also reminding that gender equality is still fundamental for the achievement of the 2030 Agenda. Achieving gender equality is a common obligation. It is a common responsibility. Our responses, henceforth, should ensure first the implementation of existing commitments on gender equality and the advancement of women and girls' rights. And second, they should prevent the exacerbation of existing gender inequalities across the globe, unprecedentedly challenged by the COVID-19 pandemic. This topic is also of key importance with regard to overcoming gender stereotypes. The increased participation of women in predominantly male sectors is indicative for the social progress towards gender equality. Having diverse teams that comprise women and men in intensively knowledge-based industries such as ICT increases both performance and innovation. The education is crucial in overcoming gender inequalities. I would emphasize the importance of training on issues related to human rights, equality, and development. It is a necessity. Young girls should be encouraged to continue their education and to choose high technology and management careers. Bulgaria aims to promote the participation of women in leadership and professional roles in the technology industry, to outline the growing role of women in the socio-economic development, and to show the face and style of the new generation of female entrepreneurs in the digitally based economy. I would like to share some data with you. According to our National Statistical Institute, the data are from this year. The total number of the academic staff in the country is 20,000, almost 21,000, 20,894, of which 10,554 are women. You can do the math that women are more than men. In the distribution of science by area, one can note that with few exceptions in areas such as medical and health sciences, social sciences and humanities, where women are being slightly ahead, there is relative equality between the two genders. According to Eurostat data, Eurostat, that is the Statistical Institute of the European Union, according to Eurostat data from 2019, women in the science sector in Bulgaria represent 52% of the total number of scientists and engineers, and we are ranking second highest in the European Union. According to the same agency, Eurostat, this time the data are a little bit older, from 2018, Bulgaria has one of the highest shares of female ICT master students, 35%, and we're ranking again second among the EU member states. My country, Bulgaria, is leading on number of women in tech industry with nearly 30% share of female ICT specialists. Bulgaria takes note of the impediments for the equal employment of rights by men and women in the ICT sector, personal or professional ones, and however, girls and women are and will continue to be a driving force of change and innovation. I would like to just remind that Bulgaria, my government, promote gender equality and empowerment of women and girls, including through legislation and policy measures. It is a very interesting fact that my country, Bulgaria, comes as one of the world leaders with just under 59 weeks of paid leave. And when I'm saying this, I would like to emphasize that during a period of 46 weeks maternity, the government is paying almost full salary to the new mothers. That is to say 90% of the salary they were getting before they got mothers. So, ladies and gentlemen, by saying this, I would stop, and I would like to thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. And I must say, it's so inspiring to hear about the results that you've had and about some of the practices that Bulgaria has been putting in place that really are making a difference for women and girls in these really important fields. So thank you so much. And also, of course, for co-hosting this webinar with us today. Now let's turn to another country's perspective, Australia. Shilpa Palila is the Councillor for Development, Humanitarian Affairs and Human Rights at the Australian Mission to the UN. Shilpa, Australia has appointed an ambassador for women in STEM, which is very interesting. And we'd love to hear more about this and more generally about Australia's Women in STEM program, including what impact it is having. You have the floor.
Thanks so much, Ursula, for this event and for inviting Australia to be part of the discussion today. I think, as we were discussing before the event started, your timing is excellent. COVID has made us focus even more acutely on what skills and professions are needed into the future. And we absolutely agree that STEM skills are some of those critical skills for the world that we find ourselves in now. In Australia, we recognise that our talent pool for STEM education and careers is being limited unnecessarily if half the population, women and girls, are underrepresented in it. I think Gladys covered off very well before me some of the reasons why women and girls have been traditionally underrepresented. So instead, I'll go straight to the various initiatives Australia has in place to try and increase participation. So in 2019, our government developed the Advancing Women in STEM strategy, which sets out a vision of an Australian society that provides equal opportunity for people of all genders to learn, work and engage in STEM. And this was followed up by an action plan in 2020. So the strategy has 3 action areas, the first being enabling STEM potential through education, supporting women in STEM careers, and making women in STEM more visible. And this was something I noticed Gladys had also mentioned, that there's an absence of good role models for women in the STEM areas. So I wanted to delve into this one a little bit more. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the phrase, you can't be what you can't see. And that's exactly where we were going in terms of the initiatives that the government has put in place. So there are two key initiatives there. The first is a Superstars of STEM program. Over the last 5 years, this program has equipped 150 women who are working in various STEM fields to improve their communication skills and then provide them opportunities to use those skills. The idea is to create a critical mass of women who are very visibly achieving great things in various STEM sectors, and they can in turn be role models to those young women and girls who might be considering coming into those sectors. And then secondly, as you noted, Ursula, the government appointed Australia's first Women in STEM ambassador, Professor Lisa Harvey-Smith, in 2018. So Professor Harvey-Smith is an award-winning astrophysicist, and she's spent much of her career working on professional astronomical observations. She was actually very keen to attend this event and speak with everyone today, but unfortunately the time difference has precluded that from happening. But in any case, she is involved in a range of initiatives to increase the participation of women in STEM. Her work is currently focused on evaluating women in STEM programs that exist to better understand what works and what doesn't. And on this point, until 2020, the main way of tracking how women were finding their way into the traditionally male-dominated sectors was primarily through Australia's 5-yearly census. That data showed that between 2006 and 2016, the proportion of women in the field lifted by only 2%. So Professor Harvey-Smith launched the first STEM Equity Monitor in March 2020 to try and get a better picture of the current situation. This first report showed that 4 times more men than women were studying STEM at a higher education level. Less than a third of the workforce were women, and fewer than 1 in 5 research grant applications came from women. This report will be released annually now over the next 10 years to track change over time. And then with that data, the government and the STEM sector can better understand how to address obstacles to participation. So as the ambassador and Gladys had mentioned before me, some of these obstacles include ensuring women don't train in STEM degrees and then find themselves with no jobs to go to, improving access to childcare, although we can only hope to come close to Bulgaria's 59 weeks, increasing knowledge of STEM careers early on, and encouraging more men to use parental leave as well and share that burden of childcaring. In the Australian federal budget that was handed down on just Monday night, just gone, the government recognised the importance of this ambassadorial role and extended it for another 2 years. They also announced a range of other initiatives, including 25 million to assist 500 women to participate in STEM industry cadetships and advanced apprenticeships, and expansion of a program called Women in STEM and Entrepreneurship Grants. And this focuses on community and business and industry-led organisations coming to us with their ideas on how to increase participation of women in STEM and being funded to do that. Another initiative that was expanded was the Girls in STEM Toolkit, which is an online resource that helps students to match their interests to potential future careers in STEM and helps them to prepare for the STEM jobs that might be available in the future. So it's great to see that even in a difficult budget in what has been a difficult year all round, increasing the participation of women and girls in STEM has been a priority. Hope that provides a useful snapshot of Australia's initiatives, and I look forward to hearing the views of other speakers on what more can be done in this space. Thank you.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much, Shilpa. Very inspiring as well. and terrific actions and progress. And I think it's also encouraging that, as you mentioned, that all of the speakers we've heard thus far, there's a lot of commonality in terms of both the challenges, but also the things that work to make a difference, including, you know, having a vision, an action plan, focusing on education, support for women and girls, visibility and role models, tracking the data, etc. So very, very encouraging. And actually, this is a perfect segue to our next speaker, Marie-Paule Rodil, Director of Office and UNESCO Representative to the United Nations in New York. Marie-Paule, as the UN Specialized Agency for Education and Science, UNESCO has been at the forefront of global advocacy for women and girls in science, 25 years after the adoption of the Beijing Declaration, and amidst the current global pandemic. What are the key barriers, but also the opportunities for women's full engagement towards innovations in science, technology, and engineering and mathematics, which contribute to, of course, many aspects of life, such as health, agriculture, renewable energy, etc. Marie-Paule, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, and thank you for this event. On behalf of UNESCO, we are particularly glad to host today's event with the Permanent Mission of Bulgaria. Thank you, Ambassador, with ITU and WIPO. And it is also a great day because I don't know if you heard about it, but this morning the Nobel Prize in Chemistry has been awarded to two amazing women, so Emmanuelle Charpentier and Jennifer Dauda. And so I think that it is particularly timely to have this event today. Joining, of course, the ambassador, the representative of Australia, and also Gladys, with those amazing women to celebrate this International Day of the Girl. Its discussion are indeed taking place against the ongoing spread of the COVID-19 as we all look forward with hopes and expectation to a better understanding of the nature of the virus and finding efficient ways to contain it. And in building back better, we need to acknowledge that global challenges like the current COVID-19 pandemic underline the critical role that science and women's empowerment play, especially as regards the provision of services such as global health, education, skills development, connectivity, new technologies, bridging the digital divide, to mention just a few. In responding to your question, I would like to stress 3 points. First, women scientists are first born and nurtured in the school classrooms. Therefore, we need to invest better and more efficiently into the girls' equal access to quality education at all levels and in particular in STEM. Second, women's contribution to world scientific progress is essential in dealing with the as Gladys.
Marie-Paule, your microphone disappeared for just the last 30 seconds. So if you could just go back. Sorry.
Okay. Yes. I was saying that, as Gladys said, persistent barriers continue to impede the full empowerment to engage on an equal basis for furthering this progress. And third, UNESCO has adopted a holistic approach towards its global priority of promoting gender equality in its domain of expertise by keeping the girls in the picture in the field of science, technology, and innovation. COVID-19 pandemic has caused the largest school closures and education disruption history, with more than 1.5 billion students affected at the height of the crisis. Over 767 million of these students were girls. Now, another major challenge is looming. Over 11 million girls from pre-primary to tertiary education may not return to school in 2020. This alarming number threatens decades of progress made towards gender equality. Even before COVID-19, negative impact on girls' access in quality education, there had been major discrepancies in achieving gender parity in science, technology, and innovation fields. If we look at women globally, they made up the majority of students in higher education. Many more women than men graduated, but far fewer achieved STEM degrees. Globally, only 35% of all STEM students in higher education are women. When you break down the S, the T, the E, and the M, the proportion vary greatly. Thus, where the greatest growth in STEM is expected to grow, architecture, engineering, and ICT, are the figures are lowest for women. For example, women make up only 28% of higher education students in ICT globally. As said, this discrepancy doesn't begin in the workplace. It doesn't even begin in higher education. It begins at secondary level, where students start to select subjects for advanced studies and begin to imagine their future careers. For example, in Europe, in Sweden, Norway, and Italy, 6 out of 10 students in advanced mathematics classes in grade 12 are boys. There are a multitude of factors at the individual, family, institutional, and societal levels that are hindering girls to take up, succeed, and continue in STEM studies and careers. Let me mention just a few that are relevant both for the fields of education and work. First, the common ideas that boys are better at math and science, that they are simply wired differently. Scientists do generally agree there is some difference between the average male and female brains, but also that there is nothing that makes one gender better than another, or any task in particular. This is huge myth we need to debunk. Second, making the invisible visible, ensuring all children can see and imagine themselves in STEM fields. When our cartoon, textbooks, our movies, our commercials, and so much media around us show only one version of a professional in these fields, how can the girls envision a future in STEM? It is important that we combat these stereotypes, as it has already underlined, right at the beginning. Third, schools and the learning environment. All children need equal opportunities to learning content, materials, and equipment that are free from bias and they consider their interest. Therefore, taking steps to ensure that girls can enter equality into STEMs will indeed address the lack of diversity in the field. I would like to refer to a French biologist who won the Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine in 2008. I quote, "Certain people discouraged me saying science was not a good career for women. That pushed me even more to persevere," unquote. Encouraging and empowering girls and young women to become scientists can lead to better problem solving, expanding the talent pool, and certainly to long-term economic growth. This is why UNESCO pursues a holistic approach to address the underrepresentation of women in STIs by tackling issues pertaining to girls' education, but also to the career progression, research, content, and practice, policy making, entrepreneurship, and innovation, as well as social stereotypes, norms. In doing so, we work together with governments to implement activities such as promote gender equality in STEM education at primary and secondary school levels, influence cultural change, and support women scientists, support the careers of women scientists and strengthen the networks, support monitoring and evidence-informed policymaking. Some of our well-known initiatives, as the UNESCO Royal for Women in Science Partnership, the STEM and Gender Advance Project, Organization for Women in Science for the Developing World, the Teacher Initiative, and the Cracking the Code Symposium and Report. Currently, we are providing platform for women scientists to share their knowledge and initiatives to address COVID-19 as a webinar in June that showcase the incredible knowledge held by the women scientists on the issues related to COVID-19. We will continue this work in an effort to support global scientific collaboration, and as the message around this challenge is clear, together we can turn this crisis into an opportunity. As the winner of the Nobel Prize for Medicine, Rita Levi-Montalcini once said, and I quote, "Above all, don't fear difficult moments. The best comes from them." Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marie-Paul. Lots of really important other dimensions brought in there, and thank you also for reflecting on the significance of the COVID pandemic and turning this crisis into an opportunity to progress women and girls in these important fields. And now we turn to another sister UN agency, specifically to Ola Zaran, Head of Office and WIPO representative to the United Nations. Ola, WIPO has been tracking the participation of women in innovation. What are the main trends and findings at this special Beijing +25 moment? And what actions are led by WIPO that aim at helping bring the changes needed to address the gender gap? You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Ursula. Good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I would like to express our gratitude to His Excellency Ambassador Paranayutov for the partnership opportunity, to partnership with the Permanent Mission of Bulgaria, which we highly appreciate, and also I extend also words of thanks to our sister agencies, ITU and UNESCO, in joining efforts in holding this event in the lead to the celebration of the International Day of Girls. Indeed, Ursula WIPO attaches great importance to gender equality in innovation and creativity. Like SDG 5 on gender equality, actually innovation underpins most of the sustainable development goals. Men and women are equally creative and innovative, and the intellectual property system actually sets the incentive structure to encourage their participation in innovation and creative processes to improve all aspects of human life and contribute to socioeconomic development. While the road to gender equality witnessed progress, the gap, as most of you have highlighted, still exists in technology and in innovation. This has also been our latest WIPO figures also attest to this reality this year again. International patent applications, which are filed through the WIPO Patent Cooperation Treaty, which is the main treaty under which that establishes an international filing system for patent applications, the applications are an important benchmarks for measuring innovative activity in the global economy. And it is actually through those applications that we are able to track the participation of women in innovation processes. So the number of women filing international patent applications under the PCT is steadily increasing. In 1995, when the Beijing Declaration and Platform of Action was adopted, women represented 9.5% of the 82,000 inventors listed under the PCT applications. Today, 25 years later, that figure has risen to nearly 19% of 656,000 PCT listed inventors. Last year, which are the latest statistics, 18.7% of all inventors listed in international applications were women. And this represents a 1.6% increase from last year. Last year, the share was in 2018, sorry, the previous year in 2018, where the share was 17.1%. So as you can tell from these figures, the percentage of women doubled since 1995. At the same pace, parity is forecast for 2044. That is 24 years from now and 14 years post 2030. We also observed from our latest figures that women are patenting more in areas pertaining to technology, in technology more in areas relating to chemistry. Chemistry-related fields such as biotechnology, food chemistry, and pharmaceuticals. And also women inventors continue to be more present within academia as opposed to the private sector. The good news here is that there is progress, but probably not at the desired pace. And actually, this is a matter of concern. With women representing more than 50% of the world's population, imagine the wealth of untapped resources in the pool of human ingenuity with the great potential of finding solutions to the most pressing challenges that the world faces today. And this is also even more the case when we think about the importance of having equal participation of women in the creation and development and in the shaping and in the designing of the new generation of AI-based technologies that are completely shifting the way we are living and the way we are producing, the way we are working, the way we are socially interacting. So it's very important also for women to have an equal seat on the table when those technologies are being developed. So there is much more that needs to be done to support more girls enter STEM areas, and more support needs also to be provided for women inventors to reach a parity sooner. As far as WIPO's initiative, I will try to give some recent example of initiatives to illustrate the kind of actions that we are doing within, of course, the scope of our mandate. And I will start maybe with a project that was first proposed by the governments of Mexico, the United States of America, and Canada. The project, which is currently underway and started in 2019, aims at increasing the role of women in innovation and entrepreneurship by strengthening the innovation capacity of participating countries and increasing the participation of women inventors and innovators in national innovation systems. The project itself aims also at casting light on the impediments that women are facing in approaching the patent filing system. The lifespan of the project, as I said, it started in January 2019. It will be implemented over 48 months. And the pilot countries for this project are Mexico, Oman, Pakistan, and Uganda. Another level of our engagement is in the field of education. So the education arm of WIPO is the WIPO Academy. And the WIPO Academy builds expertise in intellectual property to help increase the number of patent applications filed by women. The good news is that in 2019, more women than men enrolled in the WIPO Academy programs, which is promising and promises also a strong pipeline of women IP experts and network to help more women to get their inventions into the market. But also we are engaging through the WIPO Academy at a more grassroots level. We noted that there weren't many IP education programs in school curricula for young people. And this led us to launch in 2018 a program which is the IP for Youth and Teacher Service, which supports the introduction of IP education at primary and secondary school levels through interactive learn as you play games covering topics such as patents, copyrights, and trademarks. And it has the purpose of cultivating creativity, inventiveness, and entrepreneurial thinking. The IP for Youth online course targets schools children between the ages of 4 and 17. And it comprises tools that encourage children to think like inventors with practical exercises that stimulate the psychological processes at work when inventing. And by learning through application, students develop what we hope are the necessary patterns required for innovative thinking. The IP for Teachers training course, which is part of that same program, has teaching guides and is designed to support the work of educators and policymakers in ministries of education responsible for developing actually curricula and implementing education policy. A third level of our engagement, actually, and building on the spirit of what you can't see, you can't be, or what you can't be, you can't. Yeah, what you can't see, you can't be. We are trying to produce more content and shed more visibility on the theme of role models, gender equality, and women empowerment in IP. We have this is an ongoing work, but in 2020, as we celebrated the World Intellectual Property Day on April 26, as you know, every year we have a separate theme. This year was about innovating for a green future. We have shed light on success stories of women that made it in green tech. And we continue, and we hope to expose more women and more girls to these success stories and role models to work as inspirations and encourage them to get into this field. We have interviewed Sandra Ortiz, a winner of the first National Invention Award of the Mexican Institute of Industrial Property, who developed an eco-friendly alternative to the plastic material. As you know, marine and land life suffer very much from the consequence of plastic pollution. We have also shared a success story of Bernice Dapa, who is also a multi-award winning entrepreneur, who through her company Ghana Bamboo Bikes created bicycles from a locally available material, bamboo, and encourages the shift towards an eco-mobility. So all these examples we hope to give, we hope that will encourage girls that, you know, innovation is important and is not always highly complex. I mean, there are solutions that are accessible and that can contribute to various challenges that we face, and only require the right incentive to create and to innovate, but also to have an environment that actually stimulates their creative thinking, their critical and analytical thinking, their sense of observation and curiosity. And the role of a teacher can never be overemphasized in this context, given the influence a teacher may have in the interests of young students. And last,
you said last.
I was just if I may,
Okay.
last month actually, we WIPO appointed its first intellectual property youth ambassador, and one of the roles of our new youth ambassador is actually to promote IP education among young people. Yes, I will stop here, and I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Ola. Your remarks are also a wonderful segue to our next speaker, because among other things, you talked about the importance of education. And so we now are delighted to have join us and welcome Ms. Jelena Kovacevic, Dean of the NYU Tandon School of Engineering. Dean Jelena, at the Tandon School, you've been putting a priority on improving gender balance in your programs and seeing results. Could you share with us what you've done to increase the number of women studying STEM, and reflect on, are these efforts and results replicable elsewhere?
Thank you, Ursula. Good morning, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I just wanted to start with a slight personal note. I was born and raised in Belgrade in former Yugoslavia. So I was your neighbor at one point in time, Excellency Panayotov. I was passionate about math as long as I could remember. And my dad used to play this palachinke game with me. Palachinke is a crepe in Serbian. And so he would say, you know, your mom ate 5 crepes and your brother ate 3, you know, how many are left? So I was supported by my parents in anything I wanted to do. So I consider myself really lucky. And so I really wish for every girl to have such support to pursue her passion. And I want this to be built into the system so that the girl doing math is not an exception, but a norm. I also want every boy to see that as a norm and see women like me in leadership positions in STEM so that they grow up true partners. So at NYU Tandon School of Engineering, we view recruitment as but one aspect of a holistic approach of a pipeline. So step 1 is really encouraging girls to participate in STEM early. Both Gladys and Marie-Paul and to some extent all our speakers mentioned the digital divide when it comes to women, and that's very important. So we do have to start early. We have one of the largest centers for K-12 STEM education that offers a variety of programs for middle and high schoolers, and many of them are girls, 80% of whom in our 3-week program that introduces a group of students to an in-demand field like cybersecurity are women. And then fully 50% of all our participants in 2019 were women, and large percentage were also underrepresented minorities and first generation planning to go to college. And we partner with tutors and mentors for the Urban Institute of Math and Science for Young Women. And then we have our CISO. It's the nation's most comprehensive student-run cybersecurity competition. And we had actually 2 all-girl high school teams, very exciting, from Maryland and Colorado. Then the step 2 is really recruiting and enrolling women students. And we have a number of events, such as Tandon West. It's an event for prospective and newly admitted students, West Fest, where the accepted women gather in the summer to meet others in their cohort and connect with the campus resources. We hold regular Facebook Live events. Step 3 is really a crucial one, and that's creating a welcoming and inclusive environment in which they can thrive. So for example, we have one floor that's dedicated to women in our residence hall, and it's called the Women Attend Explorations Community. We have a womentorship program that matches women sophomores and juniors with their older counterparts to build a sense of community. We have a number of women-focused organizations for students, Society of Women Engineers, STEMinists, Women in Business Entrepreneurship, and so on. We hold an annual Women in STEM Summit, which brings inspiring women from all over the world. We also get our men to be partners with us. They are our male allies. And it's not uncommon to see a faculty meeting in which one of our male allies is speaking on behalf of Women Attend. We have also a diversity-focused curriculum, and many of our faculty members, both male and female, have made it really a special mission to support and mentor female students. Step 4 is that our alumni stay involved. We have established Alumni Advisory Council, whose members support the advancement of women students by serving as mentors, providing job shadowing, internship opportunities. And then we, of course, celebrate the accomplishments of our women alumni, from Anna Erdmann, who in 1907 became the first woman ever to earn a degree from our school, to Ursula Burns, who in 2009 became the first African-American woman ever to helm a Fortune 500 company. And then, of course, there's much more. We support them through our Tandem Career Services. We expanded the efforts to graduate students and faculty. And as a result, we have seen an 81% increase in women undergraduate enrollment since 2015. Our class of 2023 is 46% women. The last 3 incoming classes were 43, 41, and 37. So you can see how it's really going up. 15 women hold executive leadership positions at Tandem, 68% of our executive team. We have women at the helm of our clean tech incubator, our governance lab, our new center for responsible AI. About 24% of our faculty are women. That's much higher than a national average for engineering, which is somewhere in the lower teens. We've had 6 NSF Career Awards, 3 were women, and so on. I mean, in some sense, one has to think of this pipeline as a holistic approach, starting when the kids are young. You know, if you play palachinki games with your daughters and sons, but then going through the early ages, especially crucial are middle schoolers, where research shows that this is when they're deciding on their vocation. So we are very excited to do our part, and we're very excited to be part of this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dean Jelena, and seems like very exciting results there and very inspiring actions being taken. Thank you so much for sharing those. And thanks also for highlighting the importance both of the pipeline, but also of the conditions once we actually get women and girls into STEM studies, the importance of inclusion and support, and of course men and boys as partners and allies. Very, very important. So now let's hear a perspective from the private sector, specifically from Sana Khan, AI lead for the Northeast region at Microsoft. Thanks so much for joining us, Sana. The growing demand for technical skills in the workforce has increased the pressure to invest in this area. What insights would you like every young woman to be aware of as she continues her journey through these uncertain times?
Thank you so much for having me. To the entire team. Can you all hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you very well. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Yes, no, thank you so much for having me. I think the critical focus that I would like to bring up, right? And I think maybe before I move on, can you all see my screen, or is it that you're seeing my phone logistically?
I think we can just see your screen with your name on it, but not anything else.
So let me do something a little different because it's important to give you the right input, right? Let me know if this works.
How's it now?
We just see your video. Is that what we should see?
Yes, but you can see me
Very
now,
good.
right?
We can see you. Yes. Thank you very much.
Being in technology, being at Microsoft, my #1 focus is logistical. We can start cloning.
You know
but
what? We heard this great quote. AI is easy. AV is hard.
Yes, exactly. So it's been it's really fantastic to hear all the perspectives so far, right, from every one of you, and I feel very it's an honor to be here and to sort of elicit some of the pieces that I've learned through my 12-year career now through business and technology. Okay? So what I'll start off by saying is that the perspectives I'm going to bring are in 2 categories. One are what is Microsoft doing and what is the tech industry doing and what are they up against in terms of this domain, right? What sometimes we call women in tech or women in STEM, women in STEAM. Recently, they included the arts in the STEM, so STEAM, because there are so many women that end up being in sales and marketing and business roles in the technology industry, but aren't necessarily seen as being in the core business of technology itself, right? And the product development. So I wanted to raise that as a point that Microsoft has done quite a bit of work here, as have other technical or technology companies and innovation companies. So that's one category of things that I'll bring up. And then the other category is sort of my own opinions, if you're all interested. As someone who is of Pakistani background, and I was really happy to hear what Pakistan has been doing, Ola, as well. And who's also of Canadian background and then living in the States with a certain art and math to your focus, Elena, right? In terms of having a math background. So I'll raise Microsoft's perspective first, and please, I know you'll keep me on check in terms of time, but I'll try to keep them short and then maybe leave the rest of it for Q&A, okay? Microsoft's perspective on this has been that there is a realization and a deep awareness of where we are, in the world and in the United States, right? So I think that what happens in the United States really ends up shaping what the approach is that Microsoft takes in terms of also what would be needed in the world as a globe. And so if we start with Microsoft's mission statement, usually when I'm at a company, I might take the mission statement as marketecture, what we call marketing architecture. But at Microsoft, I do think that the CEO, Satya Nadella, the CFO, Amy Hood, the MSUS president, Kate Johnson, and all of our key leads, have really believe in this mission, which is empowering every person and organization on the planet to achieve more. And so my daily mission then, as someone who works in technology and in the business of day-to-day sales with other companies, is what am I doing to further this mission? And is this mission aligned with myself, right? And I think a lot of us Microsofties ask ourselves this question every day, especially during this period of COVID, but also in the US, a period of what we call addressing racial injustice, right? And with that comes what have been the injustices that have happened for women, right? And I think a key point that Gladys brought up was, women's rights are human rights. So I think that focus is very much a part of Microsoft's why, right? And how do we then enable and empower folks with technology and for what reasons? So on one hand, there is let me just address some of the questions that have come up, right? And I think Helena addressed some of them too from an educational standpoint, which is the skills initiative. So knowing that the academic organizations will have, maybe careers in data science, data journalism, the core engineering functions as well. I think there's also a focus in the technology organizations, given that they're the ones that are providing this, right? Whether it's Microsoft, Google, Amazon as some of the top ones that are in the cloud space, which is where a lot of the artificial intelligence is being developed, right? As a function of analytics. So when we look at that perspective, Microsoft just invested 25 or is about to invest 25 million. And I sent over a link. It's a news post because it'll give everybody a lot of information on what are the initiatives across the private sector, the non-profit sector as well, the government sector, and then also for students and consultants, right? Students across the world. How can you, in a sense, bluntly speaking, level the playing field by raising your technical skill baseline and getting educated on maybe building your own apps and getting yourself out there. So that's one big focus in terms of technical skills. The other piece, something that Helena also raised, was responsible AI. This is a big focus from Microsoft. It's something that I integrate in every presentation, every envisioning, ideation, architecture session with any given customer or organization as part of the value that they get from Microsoft, the focus on making algorithms more inclusive. There was an example that was once raised that someone ran a picture. They were doing a project for a museum, and the picture was run through an AI application, and it came back with man with a glass of wine, and it was a woman with a microscope. Right? So it says a lot about where our AI algorithms are, because and that makes sense also, right? If you look at it less as nefarious and more as the time that it happened, who was developing AI when it first came out, right? Who was contributing to it? What raised our technological advancement? Usually it comes at times of war or post-war, when there is suddenly a business initiative to, put effort into it. Then when we want to convert it to use it for good, there's a lot of effort that needs to go into it, not just from a technological perspective, but also from a creative standpoint, to what Ola was mentioning, because artificial intelligence technology isn't just about the math and the technical skills. And this comes back to my skilling point. It is about the creative skills. It is about how well you can articulate your points. It is about, in the United States, how succinctly you articulate them, which I'm still not that great at doing, and it's an act of practice. But it's part of that. You will have that in every single role that you get interviewed for. And so as delegates, as the esteemed delegates that have joined as attendees, this is a really critical point to raise for both women and girls, as well as men and boys, right? If you look at intersectionality as a key point. And this comes to my third point then. If the first 2 points were around skilling and then responsible AI and what we're doing, what Microsoft is doing from a political and from an economic and technological perspective in terms of advocating for these things. The third aspect is something that is very important and that I have invested quite a bit of personal time into, which is, in addition to my core role, I focus on the concepts of inclusion, empathy, and allyship at Microsoft.
Sana, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. You're making so many important points and sharing so many important developments. We're just running a bit short on time. So do you have one last point that you wish to end up on? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for checking me on that. I appreciate it. I think the critical point I'd like to bring up is that given all these different initiatives by Microsoft, given the road that each of us is taking, the 2 points to remember is, don't forget your creative skills, because your technological skills will get automated. And so that is the way to stay on top of the game. Use and leverage really well your male allies. I've had male allies throughout my career, especially those that would be identified as white. Explain what you need. They're ready to help. You will know when they're not. And then you'll have other allies and women. And then the third point would be that just because you might have been a victim to certain situations and your narrative might not have made it through, doesn't mean that you need to stay a victim to those circumstances. You can rise above with the right support and the right skills investment. Thank you.
Fantastic, Sana. And I love your ending point of resilience as well. That also seems to be a key resource that a lot of successful women in STEM have really built up, resilience. Thank you so much. Just a reminder to folks, attendees, please post your questions and comments in the Q&A, and also a reminder to panelists, please look at the Q&A and respond to questions that you see there so that we can respond to more of those. We had promised at the beginning that we would begin our panelists and end our panelists with a voice of a young woman. And so we're absolutely delighted to give the last word as panelist to Victoria Alonso Perez, electronics and telecommunication engineer and entrepreneur, United Nations Young Leader for the Sustainable Development Goals, and World Economic Forum Young Global Leader. Victoria, thank you so much for joining us today. Would you like to share with us, what would you like to share with us on the theme of gender equality, science, technology, innovation, perhaps from either your own journey, or if you want to reflect on anything that you've heard from the previous speakers? You have the floor, Victoria.
Hi Hi, everyone. Thank you for the invitation and thank you for staying until the very end. It was very good to hear all the data from the previous panelists that supports that we are actually in a much better place than we were in a few years ago. I am an engineer. I'm in an industry in which, my classes where I was the only girl in many of them. So many times when I am asked if I saw any difference, I don't really remember when was the last time in which I was in a place when the majority were women, because I did engineering and now I have a startup where we monitor livestock remotely and autonomously, so we can know at all times where the animals are. And this is also the farming industry, especially livestock, is also more male dominated than women. But I think that there is a lot going on. There is a lot of improvement being made. I mean, let's think that for a really, really long time in human history, women were not allowed to study or to vote. And so imagine, so I was talking with my dad yesterday about this, and we were thinking, imagine the amount of innovation that the world would have right now if the woman would have been allowed to study, or like half the population. It's not even a woman or male thing, it's just half of the population. We would have created double innovation or even more, I think. So it's I think that's of course giving opportunities. I would like to say a brief story, since this is being organized by ITU and we also heard from WIPO. No, WIPO, sorry, no, WIPO. With my pronunciation is different. I would like to say also that I started my company thanks to a competition organized by ITU. So the International Telecommunication Union organized a competition when I was 24 years old for young entrepreneurs that could solve a problem in their region using telecommunications. When I was a teenager, I saw how in my country there was this very big outbreak of foot and mouth disease. And I started thinking, if there could be a way to solve this problem. But then I worked, I became an engineer. I was working in aerospace. My biggest passion is aerospace by far. So it was very interesting to, when I saw this competition, I saw the platform where I could, this competition that was for young innovators, I saw a place where I could really submit my idea. And I submitted the idea, and I never thought, I was like, okay, I submitted, people will know me, it's fine. And then to my surprise, I find out that I won the competition. And to tell you how much of a surprise it was, they sent me a spreadsheet. So the ITU sent me a spreadsheet that basically said, how are you going to spend the money? There was 5,000 Swiss francs, that was the price. And I was like, I don't know, rent, food. And then I said, okay, if they're sending me this, it's because probably there's something that I haven't seen. And that's the thing, was that the money was actually to start your own startup, which I literally had to go to Google and put startup on because I didn't know what it was, or investors or anything. So it was fine that I started the company there. And one of the things, and they sent us to a course in Dubai. The main event of the ITU was happening there. So we had some meetings, and in one of the meetings, they told us a lot about patenting and how important it was to patent. So I decided to patent ChipSafer, and I got the patent granted, which was really, really amazing. It was a really great thing to do. And then I started seeing, that there were not so many women patenting it, but I'm really glad to hear that went up a lot since I did it. This was in 2013. So I think that there is a lot of opportunities. One thing that I would like to highlight, that I think has been highlighted a lot, is having role models is super important. Having support. I was really lucky to have my family also supporting me always. Since I was 4 years old, I always said that I wanted to work in aerospace industry. So I think that's the thing, and having your heard, making your heard voice, your voice heard, sorry, having it heard, not really caring about what others say. If they say, hey, this is a job for men, then don't worry, go forward. And yes, there is going to be a lot of hiccups in the world. There's going to be a lot of struggles. There's going to be a lot of roadblocks. But the important thing is to go over those roadblocks, you know? And yeah, for example, one thing that I was saying in a panel, and I had a really tiny bit of corporate experience, but there I saw that for example, the way in which we communicate and the way in which men communicate is perceived different, even though we do it the same way. Especially if you're a CEO of a company, a tech CEO, you know, you need to be authoritarian sometimes, not all the times, but you need to be heard. But sometimes I saw the exact same way from somewhere else of people talking, like the male talking and the women talking, and the perception was completely different. So it's like, you know, just don't care. It's I think that you have to go through it and be resilient. And yeah, the number one thing is, you know, act, you know, if your actions speak for yourself, then you know, it's nobody can tell you that you cannot, that this is not your place, or that you should not be doing this. Just go for it. And I think that as I said, more women are coming into STEM, have role models, and show that you can be the boss.
Fantastic, Victoria. Thank you so much. And I loved as well how your own story also illustrates what you were saying about the different language that women and men use. I mean, here you are, you're so humble, and yet you've done these amazing things. And I think it also shows the power sometimes of encouragement and what women and girls can do. Even just with a little bit of encouragement, their power can shine through, and they can make wonderful changes that help us all. So thank you so much, Victoria. We're running short on time, but I'm informed that we have a couple of representatives from UN missions in New York who would like to make a special comment. So I'd like to ask Alina, our colleague Alina, if she could help facilitate this. I understand, for instance, that we have Ms. Brigitta Zatmari from the Permanent Mission of Hungary to the United Nations. Alina, do you in fact have Brigitta Zatmari there? And if so, could you unmute her so she can make her comment? And I also understand that we have a delegate from the Permanent Mission of Lebanon who also wishes to make a special comment. So I think with these comments, we may need to wrap up after this. I do encourage attendees to post in the Q&A and for our panelists to respond in the Q&A there channel online. Alina, do you see Brigitta Zatmari? Someone from the Permanent Mission of Hungary?
Unfortunately, no. If we could kindly ask Brigitte to raise her hand so we could see her. Oh, yes, you see it now?
Great.
Unmuting.
Thank you. Brigitte, are you there? I believe you're unmuted if you would like to make your comment. You might need to unmute on your own computer as well. Right, Alina?
Yes, right. Right now we have added Brigitte to the panelist and asked to unmute. I think they might have a need to unmute from computer itself as well.
Yes. While we wait for Brigitte to
Yes, I'm here. Do you hear me?
Oh, lovely, Brigitte. Yes. Welcome. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Finally, thank you very much for giving me a floor. Thank you very much. So, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank the organizers for convening this fruitful and important event. Hungary has been a strong supporter of women's and girls' empowerment in science and the STEM sector. since is an integral part of science is an integral part of Agenda 2030. The biggest challenge, but also an opportunity, lies in bringing together the implementation of science-related goals with gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls. The SDGs set out investing in women, especially in the areas of education, health, employment, yet women and girls today still lack equal access to qualification, employment, remuneration, career opportunities, decision-making, and leadership. In science, a significant gender gap persists all over the world, including technology, engineering, and mathematics as well. The contribution of women and girls to sustainable development is essential, and focusing on addressing the gender gap in STEM, combined with the promotion of arts, education, STEAM, would further contribute to the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals. The current COVID pandemic hits hard the most vulnerable groups from every aspect. Women and girls are suffering more economically and even socially than men, and their opportunities for a brighter future are shrinking. We should guarantee that no one is left behind, especially in these challenging days, and we have to give opportunities and help their integration in order to not to lose a generation and their future. We should promote and provide them immediate support and for longer-term recovery strategies with a gender perspective. Let me share some best practices from Hungary. Hungary is the founder of the World Science Forum, launched by the Hungarian Academy of Sciences, UNESCO, and the International Council for Science. The forum begins together and brings together international policymakers, scientists, and among them, many talented and successful women to discuss global challenges from scientific, political, and economical aspects. At the Hungarian Academy of Sciences, which is the most prominent scientific institution in the country, bring together the most excellent researchers from all fields of science, the rate of female members used to be rather low. In order to change this issue, a new body called the Women in Research Careers Presidential Commission was established within the Academy in January 2017, aiming to increase the proportion of women among professors and doctors and to increase girls' interest in natural sciences. Furthermore, Hungary is one of the founders and co-organizer of the International Day of Women and Girls in Science, taking place every year at the UN. Another example of efforts made to promote gender equality in scientific life is the Association of Hungarian Women in Science, a national network of researchers, professors, and engineers supporting the advancement of women, increasing their participation in the scientific field, and shaping public opinion in a positive way. The association organizes programs, assists individuals and organizations in writing tenders, and distributes awards to women showing excellent performances in their field of research. An example for their work is a project run together with the American Association of University Women that enables female students to visit and get inspiration from local STEAM companies. An award called the Excellence Award is accorded each year by the association to 3 female scientists in materials technology, biotechnology, and space technology, with a special section for female Roma researchers. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Brigitte, for that comment. We really appreciate it and for sharing these really important and impactful practices. We had also been informed that a representative from the Permanent Mission of Lebanon had wanted to make a comment. I know we're short on time, but as I ask just for the indulgence of our panelists and attendees, just to bear with us a few more minutes. Do we have the representative from Lebanon who wanted to make a comment? If I could just ask you to raise your hand so that you could be given the floor. Elena, do we see the representative there?
Hello, hello, can you hear me?
We can, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam Moderator. I know we're short on time. I'll try to be very brief, but allow me to thank you, the Permanent Mission of Bulgaria, ITU, WIPO, and UNESCO for organizing this important event, and to thank all the speakers for their inspirational intervention. Madam Moderator, as we were due to focus this year on taking stock of achievements over the past 25 years and implementing the Beijing, a non-gender neutral pandemic shook the world, exacerbating the already many existing inequalities that women and girls face, including in fields pertaining to STEM, where women and girls are already underrepresented. In Lebanon, we believe that the full and meaningful participation of women and girls in every field is a crucial contribution to Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development. Last year, a Lebanese scientist was for the second year in a row one of the 5 laureates of the 22nd International Awards for Women in Science. Another young Lebanese scientist was recognized as well as one of the 15 rising talents in science for 2020 by L'Oréal UNESCO. Madam Moderator, we are immensely proud this year to have a Lebanese doctor and researcher, Dr. Huda Al-Zoghbi, nominated as a candidate for the Medicine Nobel Prize 2020 for her discovery of the genetic basis of Rett syndrome and its implication for autism spectrum disorders. As we will be celebrating in a few days the International Day of the Girl, we need to remind ourselves that not every girl has the opportunity yet to follow Dr. Zoghbi's footsteps. We need to help our girls pursue their dream and build a career in every field, including STEM, by diversifying the field and breaking down the barriers, preventing access for women and girls. We need to finance and set programs that help girls and women get access to education and skills training. It is high time to create a more inclusive world where opportunities are accessible to all and where every girl can dare to dream and achieve. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And unfortunately, we're already at time, so I would like to take this opportunity. Clearly, we could have gone on for much longer, and I apologize to the many who would like to have come in. But there's been, I think, some very common themes that have come up through so many of the speakers, and this is so encouraging. We've heard about really important trends. We've heard about the importance of vision and of an action plan, of education, of support and encouragement from a really young age to build the pipeline, and the importance of inclusion and support for women and girls once they're actually in studies and careers in STEM. We've heard a lot about the importance of mentors and role models and visibility and of data to ensure that we understand the situation and that we take action to make progress. We've also heard about so many other really positive, inspiring action and also about results and impact that are actually flowing. So in this light, we'd very much like to thank all of the panelists, to thank our wonderful co-hosts, the Permanent Mission of Bulgaria, our sister agencies UNESCO and WIPO, and also the commenters. Thank you so much, and all of the audience. We look forward to International Day of the Girl on 11 October. And as we mentioned at the outset, learn new skills towards the futures they choose is one of the focus areas this year. We hope this webinar has been a contribution to this end. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody. Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.